There is a particular moment that almost no one talks about honestly. The moment after the win, after the promotion lands, after the business goal is hit, after the number on the screen finally matches the number that was written down in a notebook months ago, after the thing that was supposed to change everything arrives. For a few hours, maybe even a few days, it feels real. It feels earned. There is a warmth in it, a sense of arrival. And then, quietly, without warning, a strange flatness settles in. Not depression, not ingratitude, just a hollow echo where the fullness was supposed to be. The mind starts searching for an explanation. Maybe the goal was not big enough. Maybe the next one will finally do it. Maybe pushing harder, aiming higher, moving faster will close this gap between what was achieved and what was expected to feel. And so the chase continues. A little more urgent this time. A little more hollow at the center, even if no one else can see it. This is one of the most common and least discussed experiences of driven, hardworking people. And it points to something important. There is a difference, subtle but life-changing, between chasing success and finding purpose. Most people spend years, sometimes entire lifetimes, confusing one for the other. And the confusion does not announce itself loudly. It hides inside ambition, inside discipline, inside the very things that look most admirable from the outside. This video is about that difference, not as a philosophical debate, but as something practical and deeply personal. The mind is extraordinarily good at setting targets. It can calculate timelines, build strategies, stay focused on a goal with impressive consistency. This is a genuine human strength. But there is something the mind does not do well on its own. It cannot tell the difference between a goal that was genuinely chosen and a goal that was absorbed from the outside, from other people's expectations, from cultural scripts about what a successful life is supposed to look like. So a person can spend years working towards something, sacrificing sleep, relationships, health, inner quiet, all for a destination that was never really theirs to begin with. Psychologists have a name for the moment when achievement arrives, but the expected feeling does not. It is called the arrival fallacy, the idea that happiness, peace, or a sense of meaning is located at the next milestone. Once the milestone is reached, the feeling evaporates almost immediately, and the goalposts move forward on their own. The mind, trained to chase, does what it always does. It finds the next target. This is not a personal failure. It is a design flaw in the way most people are taught to relate to ambition. From childhood, the message is consistent. Achieve, perform, win, accumulate. Grades, trophies, titles, salaries. The external markers of success are tracked and celebrated. What is almost never taught is how to ask a quieter and far more important question. Does this actually resonate with who I am? Think about the energy of chasing something. Really sit with what it feels like. There is a restlessness to it, a sense of not quite being settled. The present moment is always slightly unsatisfying because the real prize is somewhere ahead. Conversations, relationships, even rest, get evaluated through one lens. Are they helping or slowing the progress? The body stays in a low hum of urgency. The nervous system does not fully relax, because relaxing feels like falling behind. Now think about what it feels like to be genuinely aligned with something. Not the romantic, idealized version of it, but the real, quiet experience of doing work that feels honest. Of making a choice that does not require convincing from the inside. Of moving through a day and noticing, at the end of it, that something real was contributed rather than just performed. It feels different in the body. The energy is not frantic, it is steady. It does not demand constant external fuel in the form of metrics, praise, or comparison. It sustains itself at a quieter level, like a fire that does not roar but does not go out. That difference, between the restless energy of chasing and the grounded energy of alignment, is one of the clearest signs of whether someone is building a life or just accumulating one. But here is where it gets complicated. The goals that come from the outside often look identical to the goals that come from the inside. A person who genuinely loves building things and a person who is chasing approval might both work 80-hour weeks. A person who is deeply aligned with their creative calling and a person who is terrified of being ordinary might both produce extraordinary work. From the outside, they look the same. From the inside, the experience could not be more different. One of the clearest ways to feel this difference is through what happens in the body when saying yes to something. There are yes that feel clean, light, even energizing. These are usually aligned with something real in the person. They might still be difficult, still require sacrifice, still ask for courage. But they carry a sense of rightness that does not need to be argued into existence. And then there are yes that feel different. There is something tight in the chest. A small, quiet protest that gets overridden by logic, by financial pressure, by the fear of missing out, by the image of what saying no would say about the kind of person this is. These yes are not chosen. They are performed. The accumulation of performed yes is one of the fastest roads to what many people call burnout, but is actually something more specific: the exhaustion of winning games that were never really wanted to be played. A person can be objectively successful by every external measure and feel profoundly lost, not because they are ungrateful or weak, but because the ladder they have been climbing with extraordinary effort is leaning against the wrong wall. Purpose is not a mystical calling that arrives in a dream. It is not reserved for artists and monks and people who gave up their corporate jobs to grow vegetables. That version of purpose is one of the most damaging myths about it, because it makes the concept feel irrelevant to ordinary, practical lives. Purpose is simpler and more immediate than that. It is a filter. It is the quiet, consistent question: does this choice reflect what actually matters to the person making it? When purpose is used as a filter, something practical and powerful happens. The noise of comparison loses its grip. The question stops being, what are other people achieving and how do I compare? And becomes, is this the direction that feels honest for where this life is going? The first question has no bottom. It will always find someone doing more, earning more, reaching further. The second question has an answer. Not always a comfortable one, but a real one. This shift from external comparison to internal alignment is not passive. It does not mean abandoning ambition. It means reorienting ambition towards something that can actually sustain it. There is also something important that happens to decision-making when purpose becomes the filter rather than success. Without that filter, every decision becomes a calculation of gain. How much will this earn? How will this look? What does saying yes to this say about the trajectory? This kind of thinking is exhausting because it treats every choice as a transaction, and transactions require constant negotiation. With purpose as the filter, a different question leads. Does this align with what this life is actually for? That question can be asked about a job offer, a relationship, a daily habit, a way of spending a Sunday afternoon. It brings the same clarity to large decisions and small ones. And over time, it changes the texture of daily life, not by eliminating difficulty, but by making difficulty feel meaningful rather than arbitrary. There is a particular kind of person who finds this shift most difficult, and it is worth naming honestly. It is the person who has built an identity around achievement, whose sense of self-worth, at some deep and often unexamined level, is tied to the next win. For this person, the idea of stepping off the treadmill even briefly, of questioning whether the direction is right rather than just running faster in it, can feel genuinely threatening. Not because the question is dangerous, but because the answer might require change. What if the career that looks impressive is not actually the right one? What if the goal that was set 5 years ago no longer fits the person who exists today? What if the life that looks successful from the outside is quietly starving something real on the inside? These questions take courage. Not the dramatic, public kind of courage, but the private, honest kind. The kind that requires sitting with discomfort rather than immediately replacing it with another goal. One of the most useful practices for beginning this shift is what could be called a trajectory audit. Not a productivity review, not a goal-setting session, but a quiet, honest look at the current direction of life and asking, where does this road actually lead? Not in terms of titles and numbers, but in terms of the person it is creating? 5 years of continuing exactly as things are. What does that person feel like? What does their inner life look like? Are they more aligned with what matters or further from it? More at peace or more exhausted? More whole or more hollow? That exercise, done honestly and without the distraction of optimism or fear, often reveals something important. It shows whether the path is leading to an empty peak or something more genuinely fulfilling. The language of success is always about the peak, the summit, the top. These are images of arrival, of finally getting there. But purpose does not live at a peak. It lives in the ongoing texture of a life, in the quality of attention brought to ordinary moments, in the sense that today's work, however small, is connected to something real. This is why the shift from chasing to resonating cannot be made once and then forgotten. It is a daily practice, sometimes a moment-to-moment one. It lives in pausing before saying yes to something and genuinely asking whether it fits. It lives in noticing the difference in the body between a choice that aligns and one that performs. It lives in being willing to disappoint the version of the self that was built for external approval, in service of the version that is built for something more honest. Over time, something changes in the relationship with success itself. Success stops being the point and becomes a byproduct. When work is genuinely aligned with something real, the results often follow, not always in the exact form expected, but in forms that carry actual satisfaction. The achievement does not feel hollow because it grew from the right root. And on the days when the results do not come, when the effort does not produce the expected reward, there is still something present. A quiet sense of being in the right direction. A groundedness that does not depend entirely on the outcome. That groundedness is what most people are actually looking for when they say they want success. They are not looking for a number or a title. They are looking for the feeling of being right with themselves, of building something that means something, of moving through life with the sense that the days are being spent on what genuinely matters. Success can be part of that life, but it cannot be the foundation of it. The foundation has to be something quieter, steadier, and more honest. Something that does not evaporate the morning after the win. If something in this exploration landed in a place that felt familiar, if there was a moment of recognition in the gap between what has been achieved and what has actually been felt, subscribing keeps these calm, honest reflections close for the days when the noise of comparison gets loud again. Liking the video helps it reach others who are working hard in the right direction, but toward the wrong destination. Sharing it with someone who seems to have everything, but still seems restless, might be the most useful thing they receive this week. And in the comments, naming one goal that feels more performed than chosen can be the beginning of a much more honest conversation with the self.